Greetings, good friends, good GameSpace friends. Welcome to the GameSpace Game Show, the only show where cheat codes aren't against the rules because we make our own rules. I am Steven, your host this week, and let me tell you a little bit about this week. Short backstory, we were supposed to have two of our international co-hosts on tonight's show, but they've been wrapped up in GamesCom and traveling and everything that goes along with GamesCom and traveling. So they didn't get to be on the live broadcast this evening, but instead they put together a video for us, which I'm going to be playing in a moment. And we're going to follow up the video with some news from the week and a little bit more news from the com. I don't know if Gamescom is referred to as the com, but it sounds pretty good to me. So I hope you guys enjoy this video from our correspondents about what they found to be the most exciting things at Gamescom this year. So let's take a look at it.
Hi guys, it's Ed and Gaz here. We are currently surviving at Gamescom 2018. It's now Friday morning, so we're just recording this a few hours before the podcast goes live, and it has been a crazy few days. Gamescom, if you don't know what it is one of the world's biggest gaming conventions. It has hundreds of thousands of people. If you think you've seen anything at PAX, you have seen nothing. It is a heaving mass of limbs, sweat and desperation to get to the front of a queue and try the latest game before it comes out, and even if that's only by a few months. It's now been, what, maybe 6 or 7 years we've been doing Gamescom, and it still seems to get bigger every single year. But enough about how big and scary it is in the outside world. You don't need to leave home to see some of these games. We're bringing you more of them outside the podcast at GameSpace. But for now, I think we probably want to talk about the highlights of the show for us. Gaz, what was your highlight of the show so far?
For me, I think it's got to be Torchlight Frontiers. The things that Max Schaefer is doing with the Torchlight franchise, bringing it to a MMO experience, but still keeping the core feeling of going out, looting, clearing out those dungeons, and getting some awesome rewards as a result, is all still there. And it looks every inch a pure Torchlight game, even though they've rebuilt it from the ground up in Unreal this time. So yeah, that's really what I'm most excited about at the moment.
So definitely an MMO then, keeping that on point. See, for me, I'm sitting more with the games rather than, well, an MMO is a game, but I'm sitting more with the single player games rather than the MMOs this time. There's a lot of MMOs that have been coming out, and we're looking at Ashes of Creation as well, which you had a great interview with, some really interesting questions. That probably isn't quite out yet, but if you keep an eye on MMORPG.com, Gaz's questions, which were, even the ones we're allowed to put in, are close to the bone, are really interesting, so it's worth watching. for me, the most exciting game of the show was actually Remedy Software's Control. It's not a huge game. Now, if you've never heard of Remedy or you don't know who they are, they're the same people that make Quantum Break, which was very much based on telling a narrative through almost a TV-like idea. It kind of went under the radar and wasn't as successful as it probably could have been, despite being a great game. What they've done this time with Control is they've taken a lot of ideas from modern horror, everything from The Shining, Stephen King, things like Videodrome, and I'm probably starting to get a bet before some of your time and show how old I am with that. But they've taken a lot of those ideas, used very brutalist images and architecture, and they've really crafted an immersive experience that's more gameplay driven this time. It was one of those games that when we had a presentation for, I sat down and I was just pulled straight into the kind of thing you take a deep breath with afterwards. It's nothing like the kind of modern jump scares that you see. It's nearer to kind of that resurgence of classic horror that we've seen in the last maybe 4 or 5 years in the cinema. So if you love kind of your pop culture references, your horror, and you've got a wider kind of scope of media than just your jump scare horrors, like not to say they're bad, Control will be a great thing for you. I think we've seen a fair few things as well, and there's some stuff that we haven't had a chance to see yet. Like I'm hoping to see Decay of Logos later. That we had a news article up for that in GameSpace. Is there anything else that you've seen that you were really excited about?
So I'm interested in the Crowfall development. So we had a great sit-down session with Todd and Gordon and Debbie Sue now from Artcraft Entertainment. We'll be bringing you that interview shortly, but Crowfall is also on the show floor. And the interesting thing about their booth is that it's not staffed by developers, it's actually staffed by volunteer gamers, people who've backed the Kickstarter and dived in and have said, yeah, we'll help out running the booth. So I think that's a really interesting thing, and I am definitely looking forward to checking that out a bit later on today.
Welcome to our latest update, Milestone 5.7. In this version, Crowfall gets a huge visual upgrade. The day-night cycle returns in full force, and the hunger makes its first true appearance. It's been nothing but sunny skies in the campaign worlds up to this point, but all that will change in 5.7. Players and campaigns will now experience our brand new day-night cycle. But this system is not just cosmetic. Time of day, measured by a new widget on the HUD, will have important implications for gameplay. When the sun is shining, the game should feel very familiar, except for a few key additions. You can now explore the world as a Stoneborn, who brings ancient might to any party in the role of a knight, cleric, champion, or myrmidon. The female half-giant gender variant is also now selectable. New foes have also established themselves. Wolves, elk, and uninfected hellcats now call these worlds home. But when the sun sets, the beasts of the highlands will answer the hunger's call and transform into hideous monsters. These creatures are tougher and more aggressive than their daytime counterparts, so tread with caution if you want to survive the night. Nighttime also marks a period of growth for the hunger crystals. These horrific nodes spawn in the dark, bringing the chill of winter with them. Any nearby harvestable resources become frozen over until the hunger node is destroyed. It's up to the players to destroy the hunger crystals and slow the contagion. In this milestone, campaigns have seasons that progress in real time. Each season has an accompanying buff or debuff that will affect the player and the game world. In the summer, resources are plentiful and days are long. In the winter, resources are scarce and nighttime reigns supreme. Players should take advantage of the earlier seasons if they want to succeed. In an exciting next step for a world-building pipeline, Arinth is the first map to feature multiple zones. Faction beachheads have been split off from the mainland, and now the only way to get across is to use the rune gate. There are several rune gates marked with your faction's banner on the mainland that will take you back. When you want to form a group for the upcoming fight or trade your spoils of war, 5-7 makes interacting with other players easier than ever. When you are in your harvesting tray and target friendly players, an F to interact prompt will appear with a dial of options. We're also testing the waters in Brazil, and the client now has a Portuguese language toggle. Make sure to give our new Brazilian players a warm welcome. There have even been some changes in the relative safety of the Eternal Kingdoms. Mega Deeds, an exciting way to streamline the kingdom building process, are a collection of deeds within a deed. Instead of clogging your inventory with several different types of deeds that are minor variations of the same object, we've condensed them into one Mega Deed. Mega Deeds will also enable aesthetic customization. Going from a simple stone wall to a stone wall with wooden battlement accents is achieved by crafting a higher quality wall deed. Get ready to stake your claim, because outposts are here. Randomly placed outposts exist to allow both solo players and groups a way to meaningfully participate in the strategy game. They are able to be captured like forts and will offer the same buff as campfires. Each captured outpost will add points to the victory slider. They're not worth as much as forts or keeps, but every point matters. There's a lot in store for the future of Crowfall, and 5-7 makes huge strides forward. We hope you survive the nights, fight back the hunger, build amazing kingdoms, and love it all as much as we do. Until next time, we'll see you on the battlefield.
Apart from that, I would say, yeah, Ashes of Creation, as you've mentioned, is going to be an interesting one. I think it's been a great mix of both MMOs and some really strong single-player stuff coming through as well.
I mean, I was lucky enough to go and have a look at one of the bigger ones, which we had Cyberpunk. So we're going to be looking to kind of give you some little tidbits from that, some of the top things that I noticed from a presentation. And we did get a lot of presentations this year at Gamescom. Now, something you guys may or may not know, depending on how much you follow the industry, is that when we go to these things, we either get hands-on or we get presentations generally, and we got a lot of presentations this year at Gamescom. So whether we're going to, that means that a lot of what we've seen won't come out for a while. Don't necessarily know. Again, you'll have to see in time. But the Cyberpunk presentation was interesting in that it does look like it's going to be a massive, immersive experience. We still have some questions about that. I think we're going to go into that, and you'll probably find that the team after this are going to go into those ideas about, you know, can Cyberpunk really, can it really expand on the concepts that Cyberpunk can really get into, or is it just going to be taking it essentially as a leitmotif and then just use that skin for another Witcher experience?
In 2077, they voted my city the worst place to live in America. Main issues: sky-high rate of violence, and more people living below the poverty line than anywhere else. Can't deny it, it's all true. But everybody still wants to live here. This city's always got a promise for you. Might be a lie, an illusion. But it's there, just around the corner, and it keeps you going. city of dreams. And I'm a big dreamer.
Other than that, one of the surprises that I've found has been the fact that Amazon have brought New World to Gamescom. No announcement, it just dropped on the show floor. We've barely been able to get out into the show floor, and hopefully we'll be able to see that today, so we've got a few spare hours. Other than that, we've been to a few community events, particularly the ArenaNet 6-year anniversary community meetup / get to see everyone, and we'll be putting something up on the MMORPG site soon about how it's important to get in front of the community. Other than that, any other thoughts about Gamescom apart from never again, it's too big, please help me?
I think that's going to be the kind of running theme. Every single year this event gets bigger and bigger and bigger. It used to be just one end of this Colne Mess complex. Now it's grown so large, it dominates the entire thing. All 11 halls are being used to run Gamescom at the moment. And that's a massive feat. But it also means that my feet hurt. I'm so done with this now. So done with this.
So, next year PAX, in fact, next year our PAX team, I dare them to come to Gamescom.
Yeah,
we'll come to PAX.
We'll do a swap.
How does that sound, Dex? Right, thanks everyone for watching. If we get any more information or survive, then you'll find out. Other than that, thanks for watching, and it's back to Dixon and everyone else over at the podcast.
Wow. Let me start by saying, okay, yeah, there were a bunch of games at Gamescom, and thanks to Ed and Gaz for putting that together. You guys who are recurring listeners know the only thing that I care about is the Avengers project. And Square Enix released nothing at Gamescom. There was nothing about the Avengers project. They did send me a note, though. It's actually pretty good. It's this is basically what Square Enix says to me. We hate you. Love Square Enix. So that's actually pretty accurate, because they announced this game a while ago and they have given us no information, but that's for a completely different topic. On to some actual good news. One thing that I'm really into whenever it comes to that video that they showed was Torchlight Frontiers. Right? I mean, Torchlight, I was a big fan of Torchlight 1 and 2. And I may lose my pants if we don't get more news on Torchlight pretty soon, because just like from that video, the gameplay looks like it's already there. It's very Torchlight-ish. It just looks fantastic. I also think it's pretty surprising that New World was there, right? From Amazon Studios. We really haven't seen a lot about it. I mean, my hype for it is kind of like waned a little bit. This is a game that we at MMO and GameSpace have been interested in, but with so little information on it over the past since they announced it, it's been hard to be really jazzed about it. Suffice to say, their appearance at Gamescom is likely a precursor to something going on at PAX, which is next week. So I'm going to wait until PAX West is underway to really determine and divulge how I feel about it. I'm going to see whatever comes back from Gamescom, and then whatever they're going to present at PAX. If it's going to be any different, we could really only hope that it's going to be, but you never really know. I will say that if you're interested out there, alpha signups are now available. They just became available. So get over and sign up for alpha if you're a fan of the 17th century, and who is not a fan of the 17th century. But if you also love the supernatural, that's really what New World's all about. Another big thing that happened at Gamescom, NVIDIA also unveiled the RTX line, RTX 280s, now with ray tracing. apparently. A lot of what they were talking about was ray tracing, but also if you were paying close attention, they also included ray tracing. Essentially, ray tracing, it's a technique utilized for more realistic lighting and shadows. It's what they use in the movies to like make things look realistic, like fire or, you know, lights or anything kind of crazy, explosions. While more games don't currently utilize it, and we likely won't see anything that utilizes it for years. I mean, probably not in the near future are we going to see like a mass adoption of ray tracing. Save for perhaps that game Control. If you were watching, you saw that little trailer about Control, and they had the little RTX NVIDIA thing in the bottom corner. So it was prominently displayed for everyone to see. And I mean, that doesn't surprise me, as they created Quantum Break, which was essentially an interactive movie. So they're already probably pretty well versed with, you know, the film tricks of ray tracing that everyone's going to be getting into. But apart from that, you know, from what we've seen, the RTX, you know, 2080s are not such a high jump from the 1080s that it makes sense to shell out the $1,200 for one. I mean, like the newest GPUs are going for like, you know, anywhere from, I think like the 2080, not like the very base model was, I think, in like the $600 range, which is pretty. I mean, that's a lot, but you're not looking at like a TI or like anything like that. So $1,200 for the NVIDIA RTX 2080s. If you want to buy it, more power to you, but the performance jump just doesn't appear to be that far above the 1080s, and we're waiting for some benchmarks to really be able to show that. And lest we not forget, even still, most games today are vying for a broad playing field. With some games, especially like the big ones, like the really big games these days, are even porting over to the mobile platform, thanks to Fortnite. So, you know, we're seeing a lot of that go over to like the mobile platform, and I'm 100% sure mobile platforms aren't going to be paying attention to ray tracing, and it's probably not even going to be something that consoles are going to be doing anytime soon. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But don't break the bank on this one if you happen to miss this one, or if you're an early adopter, maybe, but I say, you know, you could probably hold off on it. Here's a little tidbit of info that I wasn't aware of, but now have it on my radar. Elder Scrolls Blades was something that that appeared, and apparently it was announced at E3, but I didn't pay much attention to it. But after checking out what this mobile RPG has going for it at Gamescom, I think it's going to be an awesome addition to my already really packed set of mobile titles. Basically, imagine the Elder Scrolls games just a little bit pared down, maybe not as big of a world, and slightly less exploration. You know, you're not going to have like all the different areas of Tamriel as you probably would from like, you know, an MMO, or, you know, we're not talking about Elder Scrolls Online or anything, but you know, you're still going to have full usage of swords, spells, everything that makes Elder Scrolls great, you know, the leveling system and all that. And it's free to play, which is, you know, we'll see how it goes. We're not exactly sure how it's going to be monetized yet, and who knows. Mobile games, probably everything's monetized, but I'm going to wait for judgment because I saw some screens on it. Actually, let me see if I have one of those screens right now. I think they said that it's supposed to be like PC quality. Here we go. So check that out. Like that's a mobile game, and I mean, it looks pretty good. Is it PC quality specifically? I don't know. It looks pretty good. Definitely worth it to play it on a mobile platform. The last game that I'm going to chat about a little bit before hitting the non-Gamescom related news is Biomutant. Have you guys checked out Biomutant at all? Because, you know, it really wasn't on my radar either until they showed a hefty amount of gameplay at Gamescom. and it's a mix of like anthropomorphic animals, kung fu, and heavy weaponry in like an RPG setting. So it's, you know, it's much more in depth than say something like Ratchet and Clank with, you know, something like that. And it looked like a lot of fun. And I also have a little picture of that because it did look really good to me. So here's Biomutant. I mean, check that out. I mean, graphically, it looks pretty dang good. And then, of course, you've got the kung fu and you've got the big weapons. You know, it's definitely on my radar, something to pick up and check out. And it's supposed to release on the Xbox and PlayStation 4 this year. So it certainly looks like something that could be a lot of fun for console gamers alike. But as for other news, let's see what we've got this week. I really only have time for a few headlines because that video ran pretty long and we're doing a short show since it's just me today. But if you're a fan of Bless Online, are you a fan? I'm waiting for the no, I don't think so. Not a lot of Bless Online fans out there, and it's not surprising. There are very few of them still out there. But I'll tell you this: when I did a hands-on preview of the Assassin not too long ago. It's on MMO if you guys want to check out and see what's going on with the new Assassin class that they, I guess, unleashed. That's a good term for it, and you'll know why in a second. But it's a pretty decent class, but that's besides the point. Bless Unleashed is a game that's planned to release on a console, on the consoles as a console-only MMO, meaning that they're not going to port this back to PC, at least in the near future. Purportedly, it's not a port of Bless Online to console. It's being developed by a different studio of Neo is, and it's going to utilize the Unreal Engine 4 instead of what Bless Online uses, which is the Unreal Engine 3. You know, it's kind of silly, and perhaps this new studio, a new engine, will finally produce results that gamers are happy with. I mean, fingers crossed for Bless, but I'm betting their fingers and toes are crossed. But who really knows how that's going to turn out? You know, I spent a good time with Bless, and honestly, I personally believe that they could have done better with a new IP altogether, because Bless has been very miss a lot across the board in every region that it's launched in. So I really don't think that they're going to be trading on a good IP, perhaps. But I mean, maybe they're just trying to cut a little bit of the corners with having a fleshed out world already. But we'll see. In the sadder-ish news, depending on what you determine is sad, Just Survive, which is the PvE portion of H1Z1, it's being shut down due to low population. It's not funny. I hate hearing games being shut down. Being a Marvel Heroes Omega fan, they shut me down pretty quickly. And I'm not sure what the population is, but if Daybreak is shutting them down, something must be going on, because I checked out Steam, and it shows that in comparison to their other games, like EverQuest and EverQuest 2 actually had lower populations on Steam than Just Survive did. But, you know, I mean, I guess I don't know what's going on internally, but I digress. Fortnite. Let's talk about Fortnite a little bit. So there was an article that came out on SuperData. Fortnite may have peaked finally. According to recent findings of the gaming markets, Fortnite has grown only 2% in June, from June to July, despite a giant patch that released mid-June. And analysts are saying that we may have seen a plateau, or we may even see a decline. This may be the first month of a decline in August. We're waiting for numbers. But why is this newsworthy, you may be asking? And I see Snuggle out there. Hey, Snuggle, how you doing? Why is it newsworthy? I don't know. Maybe soon we can stop talking about the biggest game in the world, the biggest game that's ever existed, which is Fortnite. I would love to move on from Fortnite, but it's big news, so we're going to keep talking about it. Lastly, for this week, the only other news tidbit I have before I'm going to unleash you to plugs, this evening, we're going to talk about a gaming adjacent site that launched this week, trainersmode.com. So supposedly it's a site to help players train in games that they're playing to get better at them. But essentially what it is, it's a cheat site. I mean, that's basically what it is. You can download these trainers for whatever game that you're looking at, and these trainers will allow you to cheat in game. I mean, for those of you who are of the older generation, like I am, you know, who grew up with the Nintendo and Super Nintendo, think of it like a virtual game genie, because that's essentially what it is. I have yet to actually try anything out to see how well it works, if it works at all. I'm guessing it does because these trainers have been around for a while, but now they've kind of compiled them all and put them on the site. And the way that they enable these cheats is by manipulating the memory of the game. So it's kind of like a game's in flight, and you're just kind of freezing the memory and you're changing it as things are going. So, you know, it is technically hacking the game a little bit, and it will work on online games. I probably shouldn't be saying that. But it does actually work on some, you know, network and online games. But handle with care. I mean, I don't want anyone getting in trouble or getting their accounts locked or whatever on any of these online games. But trainers are pretty good if you're into cheating, that is, especially single-player games. I would definitely be wary of using any of them online, but news is news. So it's out there. If you guys want to check out these trainers, they have a lot of games already put on there. I saw like The Witcher 3 and NBA 2K everything. I mean, they're all out there. So if you just want to get in there and cheat your way to heaven, go for it. But that's pretty much our show for this evening. Big thanks to Ed and Gaz for putting that video together for us. This week, I'd like to plug our shows for next week. Friday, we're going to have a PAX West show where we're going to go in a little bit more detail about New World, because we have somebody who's going to get a first-hand account of it, and they're going to pass on whatever information they can. And hopefully some other games we didn't get to cover much this week, because I know that our people were not able to make it to the show. So next week we are supposed to have a couple people who are at PAX West join in on the show. Whether or not that's actually going to happen, I'm pretty sure we're going to have at least one. But aside from that, next Sunday, buckle up for episode 2 of the Hero Signal, which is our hero podcast all about superheroes. And let me tell you, I mean, our first episode's doing pretty well considering it's a brand new episode, brand new podcast that has never been advertised before aside from on the show, and we're starting to pick up a lot of followers. So I would say head on over there, because we go over everything that's happened. It's a monthly podcast, everything that's happened in the month before in the superhero world. And I mean, this past month, a lot has gone on, including some additional drama that could change the Marvel Cinematic Universe as we know it. But if you want to hear more about that, check us out next week. But thanks for watching. Thanks for everybody out there in Twitch that was saying hi, and YouTube and everywhere else where we are now. Definitely check out our podcast if you didn't get a chance to listen to this and don't want to sit through the whole video. And if you're listening on the podcast, join us live next week, because we'd love to hear from you. We often don't get to hear from our international fans for the podcast. So definitely tune in if you can. Thanks, everybody, and good night.